Djed Spence allegedly refused Thomas Tuchel's handshake in front of coaching staff and senior England players just days before the World Cup opener against Norway. This wasn't just some disagreement. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't the press blowing things out of proportion. This is serious. Nothing like this has ever been seen days before the start of a World Cup. And there's a detail the FA still hasn't confirmed publicly. One coaching staff member reportedly tried to intervene but was waved off by Tuchel himself. And the worst still hasn't come out. Over the next few minutes, you're going to understand exactly what happened and why this turns England's World Cup upside down. When this happens days before the World Cup, it's not just any problem. This is bigger than anyone expected. Thomas Tuchel's authority is on the line. Djed Spence's tournament future hangs by a thread. And behind the scenes, the tension inside England's camp is worse than it looks. The dressing room is divided, and the clock is ticking toward the Norway qualifier. Here's what happened. It all started during a closed training session at England's base in the United States. According to sources close to the squad, Thomas Tuchel informed Djed Spence he would start the match against Norway at right back. Spence reportedly felt vindicated after months of limited opportunities at club level and reduced minutes during pre-tournament friendlies. But then came the conversation that changed everything. Witnesses say Tuchel made it clear Spence would be used primarily as a rotational option throughout the tournament, not a guaranteed starter for knockout rounds. Spence's demeanor shifted immediately. When the session ended, Tuchel approached Spence near the halfway line, still holding his tactical board, and extended his hand. Djed Spence glanced at the outstretched hand, turned his head, and walked directly toward the tunnel. No words were exchanged. Tuchel stood frozen for several seconds before heading toward his staff. Inside the dressing room, the silence was reportedly heavy. Declan Rice and Jordan Pickford exchanged glances, but said nothing. Spence sat alone, staring at his phone, while other players quietly changed. Nobody saw it coming. However, the real problem had started days earlier. Djed Spence had allegedly grown frustrated with his limited role despite strong club performances. Sources suggest he believed promises about increased playing time were not being honored. Meanwhile, Thomas Tuchel had been juggling pressure from the FA to integrate younger players while protecting senior figures like Reece James, whose injury history makes squad depth critical. Tactical disagreements over defensive width had surfaced in training, with Spence favoring aggressive overlaps while Tuchel demanded more conservative positioning. On one side, Spence's camp believes he earned his place through form and deserves transparency about his role. On the other, Tuchel's side argues that tournament management requires flexibility and that Spence's reaction shows immaturity incompatible with World Cup pressure. And hold on, because the most controversial detail I've saved for the end. Inside the dressing room, senior players reportedly stayed neutral, with Declan Rice emphasizing focus on Norway. Younger players allegedly sympathized with Djed Spence, feeling he was misled. Coaching staff split. Some believe Tuchel should have been clearer earlier. Others insist Spence overreacted. The FA privately expressed concern about squad unity ahead of the tournament opener. Fans on social media divided sharply. Some defended Spence's frustration over broken promises. Others condemned disrespect toward the manager. Press reports focused on whether Thomas Tuchel's communication style alienates players. Jordan Henderson, who's worked under multiple England managers, reportedly urged both sides to move on quickly. Djed Spence did start against Norway, but now faces uncertainty about his role in knockout stages. England's next match is less than a week away, and any visible tension could distract preparation. FIFA's replacement window closes before the round of 16, making every squad decision critical. And here's where things become even more complicated. Now Thomas Tuchel is caught between two bad decisions. If he punishes Spence by dropping him entirely, he risks alienating younger squad members and losing tactical depth at right back should Reece James suffer another setback. But if he ignores the handshake snub, he undermines his authority and signals that emotional outbursts are tolerated. potentially encouraging other fringe players to challenge decisions publicly. Tino Livramento stands to benefit if Spence falls out of favor. Reports suggest a team meeting was held the following morning, but details of what was said have not yet leaked. Audio or video of the handshake snub could surface, escalating the controversy. This isn't just a handshake. This is about trust, transparency, and whether Thomas Tuchel can hold the England squad together under World Cup pressure. And look, this is far from over. This is the information circulating so far. Over the next few hours, new details should trickle out, and they could turn this whole story upside down. So for you, was Djed Spence justified in refusing the handshake after feeling misled, or does his reaction prove he's not mentally ready for World Cup pressure? Let us know in the comments below. And if you don't want to miss the next major development, subscribe now and turn on notifications, because when this fully breaks, you'll want to be the first to know, not the last.